The Atlanta Falcons made a very controversial decision at the draft, taking a running back 8th overall. The position isn't valued in the modern NFL, and the Falcons have plenty of needs. Atlanta is trying to somewhat rebuild and figure out if Desmond Ridder can be their franchise quarterback, and if Arthur Smith can improve in his 3rd season in Atlanta after going 7-10 for the past 2 years. There are a lot of things that make the Falcons interesting, but taking a running back in the 1st round just makes them look stupid.
You stupid.
They're not.
Lucky for them, Bijan Robinson is a beast. Bijan Robinson immediately saw the field as a true freshman at Texas. He rushed for 700 yards and 4 touchdowns on 86 carries, plus 196 yards and 2 touchdowns on 15 catches. He saw an even bigger role his sophomore year and was named first team All-Big 12 for the first time after he had 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns on 195 attempts. Robinson also caught 26 passes for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns. Everyone already knew Bijan Robinson was really good before his junior year in Austin, but then he went from great to unstoppable. Last season, he rushed 258 times for 1,580 yards and 18 touchdowns, and had 314 yards and 2 touchdowns on 19 receptions. He was a unanimous All-American and won the Doak Walker Award, given to the best running back in the country. He was a lot of fun to watch in college. It always felt like he was the best player on the field at all times. Bijan thrashed defenses no matter what. He has dominated at every level, including high school. He went to South Point Catholic High School in Tucson, Arizona. Bijan was the Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year as a senior after he rushed for 2,200 yards and 38 touchdowns. He ended up breaking the state record with 7,036 yards and 114 touchdowns in high school. Bijan was a 5-star recruit and the #1 running back in the country, and clearly he lived up to the hype at Texas. The Falcons had the 8th overall pick at the draft. They have a lot of needs on that roster, but they decided to use that selection on Bijan Robinson. Atlanta took a running back not just in the 1st round, but top 10. I am someone who is always against drafting a running back early. There is so much value deep in drafts at the position, and it's probably the most plug-and-play position in football. Bijan was a beast in college, and I have no doubt that he will be a good NFL running back. I think he'll win Offensive Rookie of the Year, but that doesn't dismiss the pick. Taking a true running back really just has a very low chance of actually working out. Robinson carried the ball 539 times in college, and after a few years in the pros, that's going to take a big toll on him. That's one of the big reasons why running backs have shorter careers. Derrick Henry has been the best pure running back in the league for a while and literally ran the Titans offense last season. Well, Tennessee still wants to trade him because he's a running back they're paying too much. You could argue Jahmyr Gibbs is a more valuable player. He went 12th to the Lions, and don't get me wrong, I don't like the pick, but he probably has more value. Gibbs can be a key component to the passing game and is surely a lot closer to a Christian McCaffrey type of player compared to Derrick Henry. Maybe if it was 1980, Bijan Robinson would have gone 1st overall, but that's not today's league. He is commonly compared to Saquon Barkley as one of the best running back prospects, and that's fair. Barkley went 2nd overall in 2018, and he's good, but the reality is he's only had 2 truly elite seasons. He's only played in more than 13 games twice and missed an entire year with a torn ACL. Yes, he is still with the Giants heading into his 6th year in the pros, but there is a reason he is on the franchise tag and not on a long-term deal. The Falcons using the 8th overall pick on a running back is objectively a bad pick, but Atlanta addressed some needs at the draft. With their 2nd rounder, the Falcons selected offensive tackle Matthew Bergeron. He spent 4 years at Syracuse and was named 2nd team All-ACC last season. Then in the 3rd round, Atlanta took Zach Harrison, an edge rusher. He played at Ohio State for 4 seasons. Harrison took over as a full-time starter as a sophomore and went on to be named 2nd team All-Big Ten in back-to-back back-to-back years. Last season, he jumped to first team All Big Ten after recording 3.5 sacks and 8 tackles for loss. The Falcons have used a lot of draft capital on offense, especially in the last 3 years, including Bijan Robinson. Last year, Atlanta selected wide receiver Drake London. He had a solid rookie season with 866 yards and 4 touchdowns. He looks like a good player with a long career ahead. 2 years ago, the Falcons used their first-round pick on tight end Kyle Pitts. He was the 4th overall pick. He was fantastic as a rookie and made the Pro Bowl after he had over 1,000 yards. Last season was a disappointment for Pitts, though. Pitts tore his MCL, but in the 10 games he played in, he had just 356 yards. In his 2 seasons in the pros, Pitts only has 3 touchdowns, which really just shows how incompetent the offensive scheme has been. Kyle Pitts is a freak, and watching how he's used in that offense, especially in the red zone, is infuriating. If you select a tight end at 4, you better know how to use him right, and the Falcons aren't. The quarterback situation in Atlanta is certainly something. Desmond Ridder is entering camp as the projected starter. He was a 3rd-round pick last year. As a rookie, Ridder started in 4 games and passed for 708 yards and 2 touchdowns, while the Falcons went 2-2. It will be interesting to see how well he plays. I liked Ridder coming out of Cincinnati, but I don't think he has a super high ceiling. The Falcons have put some good weapons around him, so it'll be interesting to see how he develops. The Falcons do have a backup plan, Taylor Heineke. He has started 25 games in his NFL career, including 24 over the last 2 seasons in Washington. The Falcons signed Heineke to a 2-year, $14 million contract. If Ridder sucks, the Falcons do have a backup plan. The rest of their offensive weapons aren't great. Their other top wide receivers past Drake London are probably going to be Matt Collins and Scotty Miller, who both signed 1-year deals this offseason. Hollins had 600 yards last season in Las Vegas. Miller's rookie deal just expired. His best season in Tampa Bay was in 2020, the year the Bucs won the Super Bowl. He had 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. The best news for Desmond Ridder is the Falcons' offensive line. It's one of the best in the league. Guard Chris Lindstrom is one of the best guards in football. He was a 2019 first-rounder, and he just signed a 5-year, $105 million extension this offseason after he made his first Pro Bowl and was named a 2nd-team All-Pro in 2022. Caleb McGarry and Jake Matthews are both great tackles. McGarry was a 2019 first-rounder, and Matthews was a 2014 first-rounder. The Falcons have used a lot of draft capital on the offensive line, and it's paying off. On the other hand, the Falcons' defense is ugly. The secondary is interesting, though. A.J. Terrell has quietly turned into one of the better corners in the league. Atlanta took him in the 1st round back in 2020, and he's been good. But the Falcons now have 2 of the top cornerbacks in that draft. Jeff Okudah was the 3rd pick in that draft to the Lions. He was pretty disappointing, and 2022 was the first time he had played in double-digit games in a season. Detroit decided to trade Okudah to Atlanta for a 5th-round pick. The Falcons went out and signed Jesse Bates to bolster up that safety spot. He has been a staple for the Bengals over the last 5 years. He played on the franchise tag last season, and he cashed in with the Falcons on a 4-year, $64 million deal. The Falcons weren't very good in coverage, but the biggest reason for that probably was the lack of a pass rush. Grady Jarrett is still in Atlanta, and he's good. He had 6 sacks and 12 tackles for loss in 2022. The Falcons are hoping for some help with the pass rush, and that's why they signed Calais Campbell to a 1-year, $7 million deal. Linebacker was a rough position for the Falcons last season, and that's what happens when you lose all 4 starting linebackers in one offseason. Hopefully, there will be some improvement there this season. The Falcons are going to be an interesting team to watch. They are a team that hasn't been good, but hasn't been terrible under Arthur Smith either. Desmond Ridder is likely going to start, and having a new starter who is a young quarterback is always going to put eyes on a team. I wouldn't expect much from Atlanta, but with how wide open the NFC South is, they could luck into a playoff spot, and drafting Bijan Robinson might be what gets them over the hump. The Falcons have some serious weapons, and adding an explosive running back makes them even crazier, but it doesn't mean it was a good decision.